That was stolen out of Macbeth, if I remember. Doesn't it start with eye of newt and wing of mit? Excuse me. Let it go, come on. Play it out. There you go. Fire burn, and cauldron bubble, to conjure things up. Conjuring is what we do here in church. We conjure things up every week, whether it be frivolity or tenderness or truth or confusion. We conjure it up because here we have this great show we give you, and what happens is you respond to it. I'm thinking about the people I live with, meaning the people inside me this week, because last Sunday when I was away back in Baltimore, Maryland. My wife and I were attending our joint 40th high school reunion. And we were there 10 years ago at the 30th, and there's a big difference. 30 years ago, in our 30th anniversary, we were all looking around saying, well, we're just kind of older versions of what we were. This time we were younger versions of what we are going to be. And I'm not criticizing, I'm just observing we passed a cusp in which that sense of being tethered to the past had been broken. We were young, but no more. And we're going to be old, and let's go there. There being really no alternative. And I think about this because whenever you're with family or friends you've known for years, don't you feel that youthful self come back? How many of you, I know I've mentioned this before, have gone home to your parents as an adult and suddenly found yourself behaving like you did when you lived with your parents? Say, why do I do this? And of course your parents start treating you like a child again too, even though you might be 35 years old. And so as I said in our prayerful moment, we keep all the people we have been. And it's wonderful that we get to keep the toddler and the child and the teenager and the young adult. But sometimes they kind of well up from nowhere, and suddenly we find ourselves kind of confused about who we are. And I'm here to give you good news. The good news is you're not one person. You never were one person. You'll always be a large committee. And the good news is as you get older, the committee gets larger so you can call upon a greater base of wisdom. So you do get bigger psychically. You get bigger spiritually. You get bigger emotionally. Even as I discovered, I'm getting smaller physically. This is the fun part of this is the planned part of my reunion. I gotta confess something to you now. When I was a high school senior, if you saw my high school senior picture, you would say, who is that fat kid? Because I weighed 240 pounds. Now, I carried it well, but I didn't like carrying it at all. And so over a period of now 40 years, most of it in the first 30, I gradually lost weight, very consciously. And now I weigh about 55 pounds, 60 pounds less than I did before. Of course, the high school athletes that I knew, trim young men with dashing good looks, they kept eating like they were on a football team, right? And so it seems to me that the 60 pounds I lost, I gave to another fellow. And I noticed that you can, in fact, as you get older, continue to get bigger, although it's not necessarily a wise thing to do. I'm thinking about this because bigger and better are often mixed up in our world. We live now in a world in which business keeps telling us that we need greater market share, more power. We have such an infatuation, at least as a society, with bigness that it makes me wonder if this is a wise assumption to make. We're a big church, have been a big church for a century. We don't know about being a small church. We've been bigger than this, we've been smaller than this, but as an institution, we have been what is customarily called a big church. And yet, one of the things all governing boards ask is, how can we grow the church more? And I'm not quarreling with that at all. I know that bigger churches have advantages. We have more resources, more people, we can do more things, and in a tough time, a bigger institution can weather a storm better than a smaller one. One of the things church experts have been warning all of us pastors for years is that the middle-sized church, meaning one bigger than 100 members but less than 400 members, is doomed. It's not going to be able to survive as the costs go up, as the people's needs change. You'll have really, really small churches that live in little bitty chapels. They'll never go away. You'll have really, really large churches, but middle-sized churches are going to vanish because the culture can't sustain them anymore. So I came from a middle-sized church here, so I felt like I got a reprieve when I got here. I'm in a big church, so it's a good thing to have a big church, but I am asking whether or not we automatically assume that getting bigger automatically makes us better. And this is important because we can be seduced as an institution into thinking, how can we get people to join our church? Because we want them here, right? We want them to join. And of course, one of the things that made people join a church back in 1920 was a really cool building. We got that. One of the things that made this a great church to join in 1950 was a wild and woolly preacher, and you had that. But now people are saying, what does it take to get people to join a church? And here's where I have to deliver bad news. All the studies, all the experts, all of the analysts tell you that the only way to grow a church these days is to offer innovative and contemporary worship. Sigh. We don't do that. And so there's a part of me that says, oh my God, we're going to die. We're just going to wither up and go away. And then I said, wait a minute. That's only true if I accept the idea that growing bigger is the point. That's our mission, is to get more people. And then I remembered that in an evangelical Christian world, that's exactly the mission. You're saving souls. You got to get them. But we're not here to get souls. We're not here to save them. We're here to grow them. And it occurred to me at that moment that what we ought to do as a community is to put our eyes back on the real prize of Fountain Street Church, which is not our size. It's not our building. It's not our fantastic music. It isn't even your occasionally witty preacher. It is something deeper than that. We say it every week. And I think you've understood that it is a great thing to think about us as freeing minds and growing souls and changing the world. But now I want to ask, what would it be like if we actually did that on purpose? Didn't just say it, but did it. Not just assume we're good at it, but tried to become really great at it. In other words, that if we were in that business, we should be better at, not bigger at, freeing minds, growing souls, and changing the world. I came to this thought by running into someone in Nicholas Kristof's book, a woman named Edna Adan. And she is a native of Somalia. She grew up among the Somalian elite. Her father was a physician, her mother was a teacher. She went off to college eventually in Great Britain, became a nurse midwife, the very first one in Somalia. But I should point out that being the elite in Somalia is not all that elite compared to you and me. Even as a member of the upper class, she was still, we should call it a victim, but she was in fact circumcised.